Welcome, tech enthusiasts and AI aficionados, to another mind-bending episode of Navigating the AI Frontier. I'm Mark, your friendly neighborhood nerd herder.
And I'm Tom, the guy who still thinks the cloud is where rain comes from. Together, we're here to demystify the world of generative AI, or, as I like to call it, the rise of the machines, friendly edition.
Today, we're diving deep into the key components of GenAI services. It's like dissecting a robot, but without the oil stains and the risk of accidentally creating Skynet. All right, Tom, let's start with the beating heart of any GenAI service, the core AI models. These are like the brains of the operation, ranging from large language models to image creation wizards.
So, it's like choosing between Einstein and Picasso for your AI's brain? Talk about a tough decision. I can barely decide what to have for lunch.
Well, it's a bit more complex than that. Startups have to decide whether to develop their own models or use existing ones like GPT or DALL-E. It's like choosing between building your own lightsaber or buying one off the shelf at Galaxy's Edge. Next up, we've got data infrastructure. I'm guessing this is more than just a really big USB stick?
Just a bit, Tom. Think of it as the entire Library of Congress, but digital, constantly updating, and with better search functions. It's about collecting, storing, and managing massive amounts of data.
So, it's like trying to organize my garage, but instead of old tennis rackets and mystery boxes, we're dealing with petabytes of information?
Exactly. And just like your garage, if it's not organized well, you'll never find what you need when you need it. Plus, you need to make sure you're not violating any data protection laws. It's like having a homeowners association, but for data.
Now let's talk about compute resources. This is where things get really power hungry.
So this is why my electricity bill skyrockets every time I ask ChatGPT to write me a sonnet.
Not quite, Tom, but you're not far off. GenAI services need massive computing power, like a supercomputer on steroids. We're talking GPUs, TPUs, and enough processing power to calculate PI to the last digit.
Wow, that's intense. It's like trying to run Crisis on a calculator, isn't it?
More like trying to simulate the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe in real time. But you're getting the idea. And the tricky part is balancing all this power with cost effectiveness. It's a delicate dance between performance and not bankrupting your startup faster than you can say Series A funding. Okay, next on our list is the API and integration layer. Is this like the AI's version of learning Esperanto?
Close, but think of it more like a universal adapter for all your tech gadgets. The API layer is what allows the GenAI service to play nice with other systems and applications.
So it's the diplomatic core of the AI world, making sure everyone can communicate without starting a tech war?
Exactly. It's like hosting a United Nations summit. But instead of countries, you've got different software systems trying to understand each other. Get this right, and your GenAI service will be the life of the tech party.
Now let's talk about something close to my heart, the user interface and experience.
Is this where we make sure the AI doesn't look like it was designed by someone who thinks Comic Sans is the height of sophistication?
Precisely, Tom. It's about making sure that interacting with the AI is as smooth as butter on a hot pancake. We're talking intuitive design, responsive interfaces, and making sure users don't feel like they need a PhD in computer science to use the service.
So, it's like putting a tuxedo on Terminator? Making the complex look suave and approachable?
That's actually a pretty good analogy, Tom. It's about bridging the gap between powerful AI capabilities and user-friendly interfaces. Think less cryptic command line and more swipe right to generate art. All right, what's next on our AI anatomy lesson? Oh, domain-specific knowledge. Sounds specific.
It is. This is where we teach our AI the difference between a legal brief and a doctor's prescription. It's about tailoring the AI to understand and operate in specific industries or use cases.
So it's like sending AI to vocational school. Today we learn about finance. Tomorrow it's all about interpretive dance?
Close enough, Tom. It's more like giving the AI a crash course in becoming an expert in a particular field. This is often what sets one GenAI service apart from another. It's the difference between an AI that can chat about the weather and one that can predict climate patterns for the next decade.
Now let's talk about something that keeps many startup founders up at night: security and privacy measures.
Ah? Is this where we make sure our AI doesn't accidentally leak everyone's embarrassing search history?
That's part of it, Tom. It's about implementing robust security measures to protect sensitive data, prevent unauthorized access, and ensure compliance with regulations like GDPR or CCPA.
So, it's like giving our AI a Secret Service detail and a crash course in international law?
Exactly. And it's not just about keeping the bad guys out. It's also about making sure the AI itself doesn't become the bad guy by generating harmful content. Think of it as both a bouncer and a conscience for your AI. Last but not least, we have ethical AI frameworks. Are we literally teaching AI the difference between good and evil here?
In a way, yes. It's about developing guidelines and systems to ensure AI is developed and used responsibly. We're talking about addressing issues like bias, fairness, and transparency.
So, it's like creating a robot version of Jiminy Cricket, a little AI conscience that sits on the shoulder of our main AI?
That's actually not a bad way to think about it, Tom. It's about baking ethics into the very core of AI systems. Because let's face it, the last thing we want is an AI that thinks it's okay to solve world hunger by suggesting we eat all the politicians.
I don't know, Mark. Depending on the politicians, that might not be the worst idea.
And that, listeners, is why we need ethical AI frameworks.
Now, Tom, let's talk about the Wardley Map we've created for this episode. It's like a treasure map, but instead of X marking the spot for buried gold, we're looking at the evolving landscape of GenAI services.
Ah, so it's less Pirates of the Caribbean and more Navigators of the Silicon Valley? I'm intrigued. What does this map tell us, oh wise one?
Well, our map shows that the GenAI service we're looking at has some strong core capabilities and a good focus on user experience. It's like they've nailed the wow factor and the easy-to-use factor.
So they've got the sizzle and the steak? Sounds pretty good to me.
Yes, but here's where it gets interesting. The map also reveals some areas that need improvement, particularly in ethical frameworks, data infrastructure, and security measures.
Uh-oh. So they've got a shiny sports car, but forgot to install seatbelts and airbags?
That's a pretty good analogy, Tom. The strategic priority here would be to maintain their edge in AI models and user experience, but rapidly advance their ethical AI practices and modernize their underlying infrastructure.
So, it's like they need to keep winning races while also making sure their car meets all safety regulations and doesn't accidentally achieve sentience and drive off into the sunset?
Exactly. This balanced approach will position the service for long-term success in an evolving and increasingly scrutinized AI landscape. It's not just about being the fastest or the smartest AI on the block anymore.
It's about being the most responsible and trustworthy AI. Like the difference between Tony Stark pre- and post-Iron Man 1?
You know what, Tom? That might be the most insightful Marvel reference you've ever made. Yes, it's about evolving from just creating cool tech to creating cool tech responsibly. And there you have it, folks. We've dissected the key components of GenAI services faster than an AI can generate a haiku about quantum physics.
I have to say, Mark, I feel like I've just been through an AI boot camp. My brain is buzzing with more information than a bee in a field of data flowers.
Well, I hope our listeners feel the same way, Tom. Remember, whether you're building the next big AI startup or just trying to understand the tech changing our world, knowing these components is key. So keep mapping, keep innovating, and most importantly, keep it ethical. Until next time, this is Mark.
And Tom, signing off. May your algorithms be ever in your favor.